Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm telling a story about one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me as a home inspector. So this all took place probably, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago now. I was training another one of my inspectors at the time. I'm not even going to say who it was, because I don't even want them to be involved in this story. But I was training another one of my guys, and we start inspecting the interior of the home the way that we always inspect the inside. We started by filling up the bathtub, because we check bathtub overflows as part of our inspections. I think that's a good part of a home inspection. I think home inspectors ought to check those. Now, it's not required by home inspection standards of practice, but and this is just kind of a side tangent. I never used to inspect these. I once had a client call up, maybe 2 months after my inspection and saying, hey, first time we used the bathtub, it overflowed like crazy. It overflowed at the overflow and it flooded my ceiling. And why didn't you check this? And I said, we don't check that for our home inspections. It's just not part of our standard of practice. Now, at the time, it wasn't specifically excluded from home inspection standards of practice, but in 2014, it wasn't excluded from ASHI standards of practice. I'm a member of ASHI. There's another big organization, InterNACHI. I'm not sure what the history of their standard of practice is, but I know in 2014, ASHI specifically said you don't need to fill up plumbing fixtures to test them. I know that today InterNACHI specifically says you don't need to do that either. So it's not required, but I think it's a really good idea to check bathtub overflows to make sure they don't leak, to make sure that somebody doesn't get a destroyed ceiling. So I started doing that after I got that complaint, and I've done it ever since. So, back to the story. We're filling up the bathtub. It's a huge bathtub. It's one of those 2-person bathtubs. It's gigantic, and we got the entire second floor inspected, and this tub was still only half full. So, instead of just kind of sitting around doing nothing, we said, well, we'll continue on with the first floor. We'll come back to this later, we'll check on it in 5-10 minutes, see how it's doing. Fast forward 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it was, we're done inspecting the first floor. We head down to the basement. We start inspecting the heck out of the basement, and then at some point I see water coming out of a place in the ceiling where it really shouldn't be coming out. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, it just clicked. I never shut that tub off, and I just felt my face turn beet red instantly. I went, excuse me. And I ran upstairs, and my other inspector was already up there using all of the towels at his disposal to clean up one of the biggest messes you've ever seen. That tub overflowed, and it made a huge mess. And that really made me question whether I was in the right line of business. It made me think that maybe I'm not cut out to be a home inspector. Now keep in mind, I had been inspecting houses for about 10 years, full time at this point, but even still, it made me wonder, maybe I'm in the wrong business, because that was just such a stupid mistake. I don't know how anybody can do something like that, and I probably ought to be finding a new line of work. And I don't think I slept that night. That was really damaging to my my sense of self, my ego. I don't know. It was a bad situation. I'm over it now. It's only 7 years later. Now I can talk about it. But I'm telling this story as a precaution to any other home inspectors out there. Number one, I still encourage you to test bathtub overflows, even though you're not required to. Number two, if you want to make sure that you don't do the same thing that I did, here's a few tips. Number one, don't leave the bathroom. Just stay there and make it your rule. If a fixture is running, you don't leave the room. There's one way to avoid it. Another would be to set a timer if you are going to leave the room. I mean, if you're filling that tub up, it's not gotten to the overflow and you want to go inspect some other portions of that level, set a timer on your mobile phone. Set a timer for 3 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever it is you think is going to be generous enough to make sure that you get back to that tub before the water gets to the overflow. And then the third option would be to get yourself a water alarm. They've got these cheap little alarms with a little suction cup on the end. Stick the alarm right near the overflow and make it so that whenever the water does get close to the overflow, your alarm sets off and you know it. So there's 3 ways to help make sure that you don't make the same mistake that I did. That's it. Thanks for watching.